The Romulans are a fictional extraterrestrial humanoid species in the science fiction franchise Star Trek, first appearing in the original Star Trek series in the 1966 episode Balance of Terror. They have since made appearances in all the main later Star Trek series, the animated series, The Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager and Enterprise. In addition, they have appeared in various spin-off media, and prominently in the two films Star Trek Nemesis and Star Trek. Throughout the series, they are generally depicted as antagonists, and are usually at war with or in a tenuous truce with the United Federation of Planets. On extremely rare occasions, they have allied with the Federation. The Romulans also act as a counterpoint to the logical Vulcan race, whom they resemble and with whom they share a common ancestry. As such, the Romulans are characterized as passionate, cunning, and opportunistic, in every way the opposite of the logical and cold Vulcans. The Romulans are the dominant race of the Romulan Star Empire. Although Star Trek Star Charts place the Romulan Empire's territory in the Beta Quadrant of the galaxy in Star Trek Deep Space Nine, they are referred to as an Alpha Quadrant power. The Romulans were created by Paul Schneider, who said, "It was a matter of developing a good Romanesque set of admirable antagonists, an extension of the Roman civilization to the point of space travel. There are some differences in their history and the way they are portrayed on television, in the motion pictures and in several books by Diane Duane, called the Riansu series, after the term they used to refer to themselves in their Romulan native language. Biology. The Romulans began as a revolutionary group of Vulcans who refused to accept the Vulcan philosopher Surek's teachings of the complete suppression of emotions. At some point in their shared history, this dissident group left the planet of Vulcan, eventually settling on the planets Romulus and Remus. In the original series episode, Balance of Terror, Spock notes that while the events during the period of Surak are well documented, he is uncertain about their connections to the Romulans. He does state that he thinks them a likely offshoot of Vulcan. The chase implies that Romulans, Vulcans, Cardassians, Klingons and humans share a common ancestry. Like Vulcans, Romulans have pointed ears, upswept eyebrows, and copper-based blood that is green when oxygenated in the arteries and copper or rust-colored when deoxygenated in the veins. In the original series, Romulans were essentially indistinguishable from Vulcans in appearance, but subsequent series and films introduced a V-shaped ridge above the bridge of their nose, a similar prosthetic makeup development to that of the Klingons. Like Vulcans, Romulans are almost always depicted as having dark or black hair. Romulans share the longevity common to their Vulcan cousins. In Unification, the Romulan, Senator Pardek shared a friendship with Ambassador Spock lasting at least 80 years. Romulans also have in common with Vulcans physical strength superior to that of humans. However, the similarities end when it comes to Vulcans' mental abilities, which the Romulans do not share. Culture. Cuisine. Romulan ale is a fictional popular blue alcoholic beverage which was illegal because of a Federation trade embargo in the late 23rd century through the late 24th century. Despite this, it is often traded and consumed openly. During the alliance with the Federation during the Dominion War, Romulan ale was briefly legalized, even though it was later outlawed again after the war, as stated by Geordi LaForge in Star Trek Nemesis. Other Romulan drinks include Kali Fal, a blue drink with an aroma that should forcibly open one's frontal sinuses before the first sip. Fashion. Romulan fashion of the late 24th century had distinctive squared shoulders. Hair is generally cut straight across the brow close to the eyebrows, with longer locks framing the face, cut following the cheekbones, a style reminiscent of a helmet. In Star Trek, the original series, Romulan military uniforms consisted of a grey tunic with varying kinds of decorative sashes. Commanders wore red sashes, senior officers wore blue sashes, and most soldiers wore no sash at all. In subsequent series, such as Star Trek The next generation, Romulan uniforms were of a different style, with varying kinds of patterns and colors. The dominant uniform style thereafter was gray under a pattern of squares. The rank insignia on the next generation era Romulan uniform consisted of a series of diamond and crescent shapes, worn on the left collar. Their uniforms tend to fit rather loosely, and often feature large phaser holsters that allow the entire weapon to be dropped in, hiding most of it from view. As of Star Trek Nemesis, Romulan uniforms were more standardized. Episodes of the fourth season of Star Trek Enterprise depicted the 22nd century Romulans wearing exactly the same uniforms as those of the 24th century Nemesis. Romulan military uniforms follow a distinct pattern through the 23rd and 24th centuries. When one allows for the change in technology in the television industry and increased budgets, it's easy to see how uniforms from the 23rd century evolved into the uniforms seen in the 24th century. Male hairstyles do not appear to change greatly, although 24th century hairstyles seem more distinct from Vulcan hairstyles. Females in the 23rd century wore long hair in a variety of styles. By the 24th century, females wear a style similar to males. Design: the emblem of the Romulan Star Empire depicts a large bird of prey clutching the worlds of Romulus and Remus. The avian motif also appears on their warbird starships. Those who rejected the teachings of Surak were said to be beneath the Raptor's wing. Designer Herman F. Zimmerman has said regarding interior design, the Romulans have possessed advanced technology a lot longer than the Federation, so the look was a combination of Art Deco and medievalism meets high-tech. Most of the designs were inspired by Italian designer Carlo Scarpa. Regarding exterior design of the Senate area, designer Sid Dutton said director Stuart Baird wanted us to think about Albert Speer, the architect who did all the conceptual drawings for Hitler. Speer took that National Socialist idea to an extreme where everything was huge and classical and they have moats. The Romulans are people who live in a marshy area. They had little houses on stilts around mudwork. The mudwork became part of this central core, and that was where the old part of the city, the Forum and Senate buildings, was located. As the city expanded going away from that, the buildings became bigger and more technological. Society and government: the Romulan government is similar to that of the Roman Republic before it became the Roman Empire. The Romulan government consists of at least two parts. The Imperial Senate is the main governing and legislative body that meets in a large chamber in the capital city on Romulus. The Senate is headed by the Praetor, followed by the Proconsul. The Continuing Committee is composed of 9 members. Only the Praetor, who heads the committee, is guaranteed a seat. Others, even the chairman of the Talshir, must compete to be allowed in. Some of the committee's duties include the confirmation of a new praetor, and to hear criminal charges brought against Romulan senators. It has been implied that Romulans use a caste system. The Romulan contempt for Vulcans, their treatment of other sentient species, such as the Remans, and the need for strict conformity, suggests that Romulan society consider themselves superior to the other races in the Star Trek universe. The Romulan Star Empire once had an empress. A member of the Q Continuum informed Catherine Janeway that he had considered having a child with the Romulan empress. However, it is unclear when the Romulans possessed this system of government, or how it functioned in relation to the Romulan Senate, or even if they have abandoned the monarchy. The Romulan term for their mythological place of creation is Vortivore. In Romulan society, females are equal to males, both having equal ability to rise through the ranks of the military. In fact, there are more notable female characters than male. Notable females include Sela, Kydlan Dar, Donatra, Tarasum Torith, and the Romulan commander in the TOS episode, The Enterprise Incident, who was never referred to by name. Leadership: Praetor Spontilus, the first Praetor, Dideridex, Karzan, Vrax, Dralath, Narviat, Neril, Hirin, Shinzone, Talaura, Donatra, Camamore, Taris, Senators Kirmara Kretake, Letant, Pardek, Talaura, Valdor, Vrax, Vrenarch, Proconsul Shmerok, Vice Proconsul Mret, Neril. Notable military officers: unnamed Romulan Commander, Commander Tomalik, Commander Sella, Admiral Valdor, Admiral Ali Darjarik, Commander Donatra, Admiral Mendak. Military in Star Trek canon, the Romulan military appears to be a combined service, like Starfleet. Some Romulan military ranks are recognizable Army and Navy versions, while others are either carried over from the Vulcan High Command or entirely new. Perhaps Army-specific ranks are reserved for the Tal Shiar. One lowly rank in the Romulan Guard is Ulan. This actually derives from an in-joke in an early fanzine, Tricorder Readings circa 1970. A fan wrote in explaining who the original Ulans were, and wisecracked that because regiments of Ulans existed in the armies of many countries, Roman Ulans could be Romulans. The joke was probably reprinted in several other fanzines. The real meaning of Ulan is Lancer. The lowest commissioned military rank appears to be sub-lieutenant. In TNG's The Defector, Admiral Ali Darjarik initially used the cover name of Sub-Lieutenant Settle, a mere logistics clerk. Sub-lieutenant presupposes the next higher rank of lieutenant, but this is speculation because no Romulan character has had that rank. Centurion is the next highest rank and probably the most common. In TNG's The Enemy, Centurion Bokra appears to be an ordinary, mid-level officer. However, the nameless Centurion in TOS's Balance of Terror seems to be a senior officer who holds sway with his commander, having served on more than 100 campaigns with him. Sub-commander may be a holdover rank from the Vulcan High Command. It's usually reserved for executive officers on Romulan ships, but in rare cases, sub-commanders may captain their own warbirds. In addition, some sub-commanders have served in exchange officer roles or as government attachés. Commander is the rank usually reserved for individual warbird COs. However, some commanders have had charge over fleets of warbirds. Admiral is the highest naval-style rank and is accorded to sector commanders or fleet commanders. Other senior officer ranks, such as Major, Colonel and General, are Army-style and may often be reserved for members of the Tal Shiar. Deanna Troi impersonated Major Rackle in TNG's Face of the Enemy, and served as a kind of political officer. A founder impersonated Colonel Lovick in DS9's The Dyer's Cast, and commanded a fleet of warbirds. The two Romulan generals mentioned in Star Trek canon may or may not have been Tal Shiar operatives. Velal, elevated from sub-commander to general as of DS9's When It Rains, and The Dogs of War, was probably not. Perhaps the unnamed Romulan general officer who rescued Tasha Yar and fathered Sella was with the Tal Shiar. Without official canon sources, these remain purely conjectural. Tal Shiar. The Tal Shiar is a Romulan intelligence organization. The name isn't homage to the Tal Shiar, a Vulcan method of execution from the original Star Trek series where the neck is broken with a swift stroke for a quick and merciful death. Before the Dominion War, the Tal Shiar and the Cardassian Obsidian Order secretly worked together to launch a preemptive strike on the Founder home world. The plan was initiated by retired head of the Obsidian Order Rene Brantain, and was supported by Tal Shiar Colonel Lovick, who was later revealed to be a changeling. As a result, the entire fleet was destroyed. Soon after, the Cardassian Union joined the Dominion while the Romulan Star Empire entered a pact of neutrality with them. In the Next Generation Season 6 episode, Face of the Enemy, Counselor Deanna Troi was surgically altered by a Romulan underground organization to impersonate a Tal Shiar officer, Major Rackle. In the Deep Space Nine Season 6 episode, In the Pale Moonlight, Elam Garak and Captain Sisko successfully fool the Tal Shiar into concluding that the assassination of Romulan Senator Reenarch was carried out by the Dominion homeworld. Romulus and Remus are the primary two Romulan planets. Both planets orbit the same central star. Although they are not a binary planet system, Romulus and Remus are often referred to as twin planets. Romulus had no sentient species until her revolutionary Vulcan movement colonized it around 400 AD. These revolutionaries, over time, became the Romulans. A sapient species called the Remans developed on Remus and was conquered by the Romulans, later becoming a lower class in Romulan society. The original colonization group of Romulans came to this system after they fled their homeworld in rebellion against the philosophy of peace and logic proposed by Surak. As Spock would later point out, if the Romulans retained the passions and expansionist outlook that the pre-Surak Vulcans once had, it would make them an extremely dangerous race. Romulus. The Romulan government resembles the Roman Republic before it became the Roman Empire. The Romulan government consists of several parts. The Romulan Senate, the main governing and legislative body in a large chamber on Romulus. The Senate is headed by the Praetor, followed by the Proconsul. The Senate does not sit on the third day of the Romulan week. The Romulan Senate also has the Continuing Committee, which is composed of senators and the chairman of the Tal Shiar and confirms the new Praetor. The Romulan military and government also have positions similar to those of the Roman Republic: Proconsul, Praetor and Senator. In the pocketbooks novels by Diane Duane, the Romulan name for the planet is Trahan, hence the endonym for the people is Riansu. The destruction of Romulus is depicted in the 2009 film Star Trek. Spock Prime blames it on the explosion of a nearby star, said to happen 129 years after the events portrayed in the film. Remus, a sister planet or nearby solar system labeled Romy, appeared on a star map in the original series episode Balance of Terror, the first episode to feature the Romulans. The name Remus is mentioned by Kirk in this episode as a planet when he says, patrolling outposts guarding the neutral zone between planets Romulus and Remus and the rest of the galaxy received an emergency call, but its actual inhabitants were first mentioned in the 2002 sequel film Star Trek Nemesis. As revealed in Star Trek Nemesis, the inhabitants of Remus are the bat-like Remans, who were subjugated ever since the Romulans staked their claim to Remus and set up their new homeworld in the system. The story did not clarify whether the Remans are native to Remus, or whether they are another Vulcanoid offshoot race. Because the planet is tidally locked to its sun, one side of the planet is in constant darkness. Living on this dark side has made the Remans extremely sensitive to light. The Remans were treated as second-class citizens within the Romulan Star Empire. Remus is the prime planet of dilithium mining and as such many Remans are forced into slave labor. Much about Remus remains a mystery, including the source of its humanoid population. There is no on-screen depiction, one way or the other, to show whether Remans originated on Remus itself, or that they are mutated descendants of the original Vulcan colonists. Remans do, however, appear to have some telepathic abilities, green-tinted skin, and pointed ears, possibly implying a shared genetic lineage with Romulans and Vulcans. Technology. Romulans are noted for their use of disruptor weapons, photon torpedoes, plasma torpedoes, and their signature cloaking technology, as well as having spaceships that are powered by artificial singularities. In the 22nd century, they displayed advanced holotechnology and telepresence. A number of designs for Romulan starships have been presented. Since Star Trek The Next Generation, Romulan warships have been referred to as warbirds.